Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Today, I'm once again going to answer some of your questions, like how much does a watch sales associate make? Or at least, how much did I make? And also, what do I think, what would I rather have, Ferrari or Aston Martin? The answer may surprise you. All that and more in today's video. Now, of course, before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing my Patek Philippe 5296 sector dial in white gold. Absolutely love it. It's the only Patek currently in my collection, but I've loved it for a long time and I'm very lucky to have it. Also, guys, don't forget to check out delraywatch.com. A bunch of new watches have come into stock, including a gorgeous Christopher Ward Bell Canto, one of the coolest chiming watches around, especially for the price, by a brand that's really doing it right. We also got in a Girard-Perregaux Olimpico blue dial chronograph. This is the predecessor to the Laureato, and I actually think it's more handsome. Nicer curves, in my opinion. The bracelet's a little bit more bulbous, and a few more high-polished areas than the current satin Laureato. I think the GP Olimpico is absolutely gorgeous. And we got in a Breguet Marine 5817 previous generation. Everybody knows I love this watch. I currently own one, and the current generation of the Breguet Marine got hit by an ugly stick, so the 5817 is the one to have. All at delraywatch.com, the best place for a watch geek to buy a watch. Link in the description below. Anyway, guys, these are the questions you've asked me on my Instagram account at Federico Talks Watches. A few times a month, a Q&A picture pops up. When you see that picture, feel free to ask your question. When I get enough questions, I take the picture down. Please do not DM me. I do not check them. And in no particular order, we start with Rio Akbar P. And he said, "Hey, Fed, I know you oughta have a couple of bespoke leather straps. What leather do you use, and what do you do to special care with them, like mink oil or leather balms?" Thank you. Okay, so I do own a ton of custom leather bands, including this Berenia leather band. And I've not been paid to say this. He does not know I'm saying this, but pretty much I get all my leather from Aaron Bespoke. Fantastic strap maker. He's got my measurements on file. And whenever I get a new watch, which I know hasn't happened in a while, I do order a leather strap from him, and I get all my watch boxes, like that case right behind me, from him as well. Generally, I'm a big fan of Ostrich. I've really loved Ostrich. I think it's underrated. Berenia leather, if you want to give a watch a more casual look, is also beautiful. And, you know, I like alligator as well, but I'm wearing it less and less. Now, here's the part that may shock you. I actually don't do anything to care for the straps. I let them patina naturally. I also have a pretty big watch rotation, so none of them get a bunch of wear. And they've lasted a really long time. I mean, these high-quality straps, I have some that are 5, 6, 7 years old, and I've yet to get rid of one, to be honest. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I do for custom leather straps. Justin Allure, what do you think of the Frank Mueller Crazy Hours in 2025? Fun watch or thumbs down? So, you're very rarely going to hear me say this about Frank Mueller, but 2 thumbs up, particularly for the Color Dreams version. One of the few watches that I actually think Frank Mueller deserves credit for. It's whimsical, it's very handsome. Some might consider it outdated. I don't. I consider it an icon. Now, how practical is it? The jumping hour feature would kind of drive me nuts if I had to accurately tell the time, because the hand is never where you expect it to be. But that is the charm of the watch. I love the Frank Mueller Crazy Hours, particularly in the Color Dreams color palette. Diarado, "Hey Fed, been a fan for years." Thank you, my friend. "Ferrari or Aston? I guess you've had the chance to drive both. What's your take?" So, you're going to expect me to say Ferrari. And to be very honest with you, 99% of the time it would be Ferrari. I think Ferrari definitely wins out in my opinion. I mean, I'm also Italian. I have a connection to the brand. I've lusted after Ferrari for decades, ever since I was a child. It's my halo car. I've actually owned the Ferrari, not a particularly special one in California, but very, very happy to say I have owned one. However, there's something about the new Astons and what a great deal they are pre-owned that I'm not gonna lie, I've been trolling Auto Trader looking at Astons lately. Don't know if it's gonna happen, but don't be surprised if at some point I do end up with a heavily depreciated Aston Martin. Gennaro Sepe. Hey Fed, at what point does a microbrand become independent? Would you consider Christopher Ward an indie or a microbrand? Gennaro, this is very interesting. There's no official point of when a brand crosses over. But there is some criteria that I use personally when thinking about these brands. The first thing is real estate. What does real estate have to do with watches? Well, if a brand has a headquarters, and I'm not talking a small 2,000 square foot office like Delray Watch, but does a brand have an HQ with multiple employees and at least partial production in-house? I think if a brand has an HR department, multiple people on payroll, a brick and mortar office, and some of their production in-house, then they are definitely an independent and no longer a micro brand. Christopher Ward is definitely an independent brand. Now, nothing wrong with micro brands, but a lot of them are run by a couple of employees or a couple of owners, founders, and they outsource everything apart from maybe the design. And that's fine. Some very cool watches have, come out of that. But when you have multiple people on payrolls, your revenue is probably, Christopher Ward definitely, but, if the revenue is in the millions, that's no longer a micro brand. That is an independent brand. 10 USC 311. Hey Fed, thanks for all the years of knowledge and fun. Thank you. I was wondering if you could talk about being a sales associate in your retail days. I'm thinking about a late career change and was wondering about pay ranges and training. So, this is very, very interesting. Please keep in mind, I haven't been a sales associate since 2010, I want to say roughly. However, I've worked, retail sales for the Cartier flagship boutique on Fifth Avenue, for Tourneau, now Booker on 57th Street, and also for Vempe on Fifth Avenue. And I've also managed some retail aspects of when I used to work for Piaget as their wholesale director. So I do have an idea of pay and numbers. I can tell you it ranges widely from about $50,000 a year on the very low end to about $200,000 a year if you're a top sales associate at a top store, to up to $500,000 a year if you've got private clientele. I can tell you it really depends on where you are and who you work for. If you work for a smaller brand in a smaller location, for example, a Breguet boutique in a second-tier city like Charlotte. Now, I don't know if Breguet has a boutique in Charlotte, but that's an example. Probably going to be making $70 to $75K a year, which is a decent living. If you're working for Cartier on Fifth Avenue in the watch department, you're making at least $100 with commission, at the very, very least. And if you're working for a mom-and-pop jeweler, I'd say you're making between $70 and $100. At a top-tier watch store, as I said, with good commission, you should easily be pulling about $200,000 a year. And I do know a handful of sales associates in my day that have made $250 plus. One of them even about $500,000. But I'd say for like a non-top 5 brand in a small city, you're probably looking at an average of $70,000-$75,000. As far as the training, it depends. Do you work for a mono brand boutique? They have their training plans. And if you work for a multi-brand boutique, a boutique that sells multiple brands, then directors from that brand usually hold training. So, this month the Breguet guy is coming in to teach you about Breguet. Next month the Piaget is coming in to teach you about Piaget. Oh, in April you have a tutor training. So in a multi-brand boutique, the brands typically send someone to train the staff. And in a mono-brand boutique, I'm sure they have all sorts of computer training and stuff like that. I don't think it's a very comfortable six-figure living unless you are working in a hot watch market for a hot brand. But there's a lot of worse jobs out there. I will tell you, when it came in December, I'd work 30 days straight, because I wanted the overtime pay, and that was the hottest sales time of the year. I also like companies that kind of pool commission. I'm not going to say any names because I don't know what policies have changed, but I have worked for a store where you got commission, but it wasn't individual. Like if Barry over there sold a $200,000 watch, everybody got commission. I thought that was a fantastic way of doing it because everybody tried to support each other, as opposed to a place like Tourneau, which was basically a used car salesman lot. And you'd backstab your mother to sell a strap in an environment like that. So yeah, it really depends, but best of luck with the career change. Anyway, guys, that's it for me today. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Really does help. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more content. And of course, we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.